Welcome to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Today we reflect on the progress of Nigeria's aviation sector under the leadership of Barrister Festus Keyamo, who's also a senior advocate of Nigeria. We'll talk about reforms and policy changes, anti-corruption efforts, infrastructure development, safety and security enhancements, domestic airline supports, and aviation fuel availability and affordability, as well as the Boeing MoU and the compliance with the Cape Town Convention practice direction. Nigeria's efforts to comply with the Cape Town Convention are expected to have a positive impact on the aviation sector, promoting investment confidence and economic growth. Take a listen. Honorable Minister, welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you, Terry.
I recall that when you were appointed by the president last year, the conversation around was round peg in square hole and whether or not you fit the position. So what do you think about your time in office so far?
Well, it's been extremely interesting and a huge learning curve, for me, and setting a clear path that I think, or the administration thinks, that the aviation industry should follow in the next few decades to come. So we have been very deliberate in setting our agenda in the last 1 year plus. We have been very, very deliberate in getting our objectives very right. So as it is today, Nigerians understand where we are going in terms of our policy direction. We have been very clear about it. In terms of what we also want to do in terms of infrastructural development, because those are the two key things, policy and, of course, infrastructural development. We are very clear as to where we are going in respect of these two issues.
I think it's beautiful that you say that. One of the things that would have been of concern is the corruption in the aviation sector. In fact, even you had said at the beginning of your tenure that there was a cartel that was conniving with some of government's, some agency officials to avoid safety regulations and all that. And that had been, that had generated quite some reactions, with some saying that you're demarketing the aviation sector. So it's been months now. It's been months, and we know what corruption is in Nigeria. Based on your allegation, is corruption fighting back, or are you making progress in the fight against corruption in the aviation industry?
Well, even if it's fighting back, it won't stop the fight against it. There are different aspects to this issue, but one aspect is what we are tackling frontally. I talked about, for instance, the fact that the federal government is losing billions of naira when it comes to the operations of private aircraft in Nigeria. Most of the private aircraft operating in Nigeria, 80% of them, they were operating on a PNCF basis. PNCF means, private non-charter, operations. Those who obtain licenses to operate aircrafts without, intending to ferry passengers for profit. So if you bring an aircraft into the country, a private aircraft, for your businesses to run, quickly meet your business demands and all of that privately, then you are a private, non-charter operator. But many of them, they do that. And of course, the license you obtain and the fees you pay to government for operating a private non-charter is very, very different from the one you obtain to operate a proper AOC. That is the one for commercial. Now, what they do is that they bring it in, pretend that it is for private use, and then put it in the market, to ferry passengers back and forth. And then, of course, you make the federal government lose a lot of revenue. You also make those who are genuine businessmen who bring in their aircrafts to carry passengers to obtain proper AOCs, you prevent them from earning money because you have paid less to government, your prices are far less, you charge all kinds of ridiculous prices, and then you push them out of the market. So what I've done I said before that this could not have happened without, of course, connivance of officials within the industry, those who oversight them. And I was very clear about that. There was no issue of the marketing, in that you have to confront, like they say, the Christians say, confront the devil, and he will flee from you. Confront the issue. Why will you be talking about corruption in whispers? I mean, I was amazed when some industry people said you are demarketing. What is demarketing about confronting, a humongous issue like corruption? If you talk about corruption in whispers and in hushed tones, it means that you yourself, you are also, conniving, or you're trying to, overlook it, or you're complicit in it. So corruption must be tackled openly and frontally, and especially for the benefit of the Nigerian people. It is their issue, it is their money, it is their common, heritage. So you must tell Nigerian people, what is happening. I was clear from the beginning that I was going to be transparent, in my dealings in my office. So what I did, or I've done, is to set up a high-level task force, ministerial task force. I'm sure they have started sitting, and a lot of revelations have been coming out, from the task force. A lot of people who felt they were untouchable, they have been, running helter-skelter, except Mr. President intervenes, to say, look, stop this or stop that. But I've said, look, there should be no untouchable in this business. Nobody who is untouchable in this business.
Well, will that finding be made public?
Oh, yes, it will be made public. We are even in the process of publishing those who we have found complicit, those who have even, some of them initially refused to appear before the task force. They were pretending to be, holier than thou, untouchable. I told them to ground their aircrafts until you appear and show your score logs, your travel logs, where you have been going, how you have been flying, who you have been carrying, and all of that. Show it to the task force. And these are task force made up of very high, professionals within the industry. Another aspect to this issue of corruption was that people were entering the country, with all, different points in the country, private aircraft flying into the country, different points that were not designated as international airports. And they were virtually unchecked. And the kind of security risk that poses to the country. This has been going on for many years unchecked. And what somebody told me when I started it was that you are going to lose your job as a result of it. These are people who are highly connected. They'll go and tell the president one thing or the other and other. I said, so be it. But let me do my job to the best of my ability, to my conscience, my own conscience, to say you cannot be operating into this country, flying into this country with private aircraft at undesignated points. So you don't have a full complement of NDLA, customs, immigration, and at those points. Imagine there were people who formed a habit at a point. They would call us 1 hour to landing from air without making previous arrangement. Please call the minister. The minister, we're about to land at Calabar Airport, we're about to land at Maiduguri Airport, we're about to land 1 hour. But there are no immigration there. Yes, we called 1 or 2 immigration men to just be there to check. How can you arrange for your own immigration man or people to be there to just check you in? That they themselves arrange with the immigration for 2 or 3 people to be there just to, in a routine manner to show that they check them in. I said, no. We don't have, that is not designated as an international entry point where you had the full complement of security agents who should do their jobs. There were 1 or 2 waivers, of course, when I came, when, I didn't know what was going on properly at that time. By the time I took firm grip of the situation, I told the National Security Advisor, I said, look, we won't allow this to happen. And thankfully, the NSA has been very supportive. They ran from me, they ran to him. He said, well, I'm sorry, the aviation has taken a decision. We will not allow you flying. Go, if you want to fly, go to the right international points, clear yourself in there. You can now fly as a local flight to anywhere you want to fly within the country, but you can't come into the country unchecked. Whether you are carrying arms, you are carrying, contraband things, you are carrying cash, you are carrying, money laundering, all kinds of money laundering activities, or even drugs. We don't know. So we have checked that. And I have the cooperation of other security agencies.
So that was exactly where I was
on and on. Like this. So there are so many.
That's where I was going to go with this, because we understand the bureaucracy and the power play in the industry. And I'm wondering if you're enjoying what sort of support you're getting from the stakeholders, because I know that in the midst of this whole allegation of corruption back and forth, they had said you owed the industry an apology. They had also said you had violated the Civil Aviation Act 2022 by not ensuring the independence of, I think, the NCAA. So what sort of support are you getting with regard to sanitizing that sector?
I have the complete support of Mr. President. Mr. President appointed me as Minister of Aviation, and I will not be a lame duck minister. All of those rhetorics you have heard before, they were the rhetorics that certain individuals used to promote the corruption I was talking about. If agencies who were supposed to do their jobs, they were efficient enough, then these issues will not be going on. So why am I a supervisor over these agencies? Am I a lame duck supervisor? If I clearly see that something wrong is going on, you think, what is the solution? You mean I should stand arms akimbo? I should be helpless? Or what? Are they in a better position to interpret the law as much as I am, as I can interpret the law? A member of the inner bar, more than 3 decades of active practice of law, they want to interpret the law to me? Come on. But I think those few voices have been silenced by the fact that we have made considerable progress. They were not loud voices. There were very, very few voices within the industry that tried to say the minister should keep off. But as I speak with you, the industry is at one that these reforms are necessary. These issues we are tackling are necessary. And I think we are all on the same page now that we need to confront these issues as frontally as possible.
Well, that's beautiful. I think one concern as well would be if these are temporary measures. And the reason is, if you leave that office tomorrow as minister, will that corruption return? Or are there reforms that you've put in place with the assistance of the president or support from the president to make sure that that sector stays sanitized even after you?
Well, it's a worry, really. Sometimes when you have policy changes when people leave office, when this administration leaves office. But we're going to try as much as possible to codify some of these issues and ensure that you don't return to the past. And so, for instance, I was telling you about entry points and all of that. Why not even make it illegal by law to enter this country, from undesignated points?
Isn't it illegal?
Why? It's just a regulation. It's a regulation. Just you don't designate airports as, but let it be an offense for even law enforcement agencies to assist anyone to enter. So it's a matter if I'm a private person and I call you to say you are my friend in immigration, please just show up at one Calabar airport to clear me in or Ilorin airport. I'll say, I'm sorry, it's an offense. I cannot come there because I know that I will go to jail. So like I was saying, that there is always a problem when, people leave office and policies change and all of that. Maybe when this administration leaves, these issues come back again. But then we're also making effort to ensure that we codify some of these issues. For instance, why not make it an offense for law enforcement agencies or those who ought to be at the borders to assist anyone to come into the country and on designated international entry point to assist somebody to pass through there into the country. Make it an offense. So that when a private person calls you to say, come and claim into the country from one point or the other that is not designated as an international entry point, let it be an offense for which you can go to jail and lose your job. So those are the things we can do before we leave office to make sure that we strengthen the laws surrounding some of these issues.
Beautiful. Let's talk about our airports now and the concerns from the domestic airlines, especially with regard to infrastructure, high aviation fuel cost, multiple payments and all that. Have you made any adjustments in the last 1 year to address the concerns of domestic airline operators?
Well, the domestic airline operators, their concerns are multifarious, but you just talked about infrastructure. We're going to come to policy later, but let me talk about infrastructure. Our overall dream and goal, for infrastructural development as we're going forward is to go into full public-private partnerships. You should know that the big infrastructure ministries, Blue Economy, FCT, Works, Housing, Aviation, I think one or two others, these are the infrastructure ministries. Yeah. None of them will normally can have the full backing, the full support of the budgetary provision, to carry out their key projects. None of them. So we are looking at public-private partnerships to concession these airports and make sure that private people come to run them professionally and in the best, global standards. Most of the best airports in the world you see today have gone around the world. They are not run by governments again. They have been concessioned out to private individuals to run. That's where we're going. There were efforts that were on before we came into office. I'm sure you know that. But there were so many complaints. There were court cases in many cases when we came into office. And there were agreements that were skewed in such a way, agreements that were to be entered into because none of our agreements were signed. That's why we suspended them. So we did not commit ourselves to any agreement. They were on the verge of signing these agreements when we came into office, and we suspended some of these efforts because we thought that we had to take a second look at them. People were complaining, for instance, and did not factor the fact that there were third-party interests in some of these airports. For example, we had Chinese loans to build some of our airports, and then we were committed to these third parties in terms of the payments, paying back to these third parties. So these concessions did not take into consideration that we had third-party interest also. So, there were a lot of legal issues that we looked at, and we had to suspend those efforts. So the point is that, to make the point that it has been a clear, issue that we have to go to concessions to make our airports viable. But those are long-term. So people should not say that, well, we're waiting for long-term solutions before we can improve our airports. While that is going on, we are making very, little efforts in terms of improving the services at the airports too. In the meantime, to make sure that what we have now is still acceptable, in terms of travel experience, to the Nigerian people, because it's a very, very, service-oriented sector. So it's very easy for Nigerians and people to complain when they don't see good services every day. So what we are doing, therefore, if you see what we have done recently in the E-wing of the international airport, we have also gone into some mini private arrangements where private people have come to help us improve a few infrastructure, the departure, the arrival, e-arrival. We are working on the e-departure now. And a few of those things are going on now too. Private people are coming in to improve those infrastructure for us.
Specifically the Lagos airport. Lagos airport seems
if you go there now, you'll see some of the improvements there now. Just go and visit the E-wing. And I'm sure you've seen some testimonies online of people who have passed through there recently. And they've seen that we have tried to manage what we have for now to make it a bit friendly, customer friendly, until the big issue of the concessions will come in, where we do complete upgrade of the entire airports.
No, so since you said customer friendly, I just want to know what other interaction you've had with your counterpart in the Ministry of Interior with regard to the attitude of his men, because customer comfort is another thing, and the country's reputation, especially in international airports, is at stake here. I'm sure you've heard the stories as well.
Yes, and then, thank God you also identified the fact that we have to collaborate with my brother in Interior and Customs also, and that is the Ministry of Finance. When people hear airports, they think everything is under the aviation in airports, but you have immigration, you have customs, and some of these complaints are not coming from aviation. Most of these complaints come from those agencies within the airports who are supposed to do their jobs, who are to do their jobs, which is immigration, customs, and the like, NDLA and all of that, that are not under the complete control of aviation. So what we have done, under the direction and guidance of the National Security Advisor, is to come together and form some interagency cooperation on this. We're working very hard at this, and the National Security Advisor has recently made 1,000 special cameras, body cams available. So they are undergoing training now, aviation security, immigration, customs, NDLA. We are dividing these body cams to all of them, and the body cams will increase. We'll start with international airports, and very soon it will also go to other airports. We're going to start with the major international airports. Now, that is one effort the National Security Advisor is making to ensure that we can monitor real time the actions of these officers at the entry points. And these body cams are like CCTVs. They are not the ones you come and replay later to know what happens. There will be a command center where we can see each of these body cams and what they are capturing in real time. In real time. So the command center is ready. The body cams are ready. The training is ongoing now to ensure that Nigerians are no longer harassed at these entry points. You don't have these complaints again that give our country very bad experience. For we who are the landlords of the airports, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, we're also determined to ease any officer out of the airport who violates, these very, very stringent rules of decent conduct and courteous conduct that they should display towards people coming into this country or even going out of this country. We showed out, the recent scandal where you saw one officer asking for money or so, we threw him out of the airport and handed him over to immigration for them to deal with him. So we are determined to do that as Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, whilst these other bigger efforts regarding body cams and all that are going on.
How about the situation of VIPs and their security details refusing to go through checks?
Well, we have put cameras everywhere now. We have also complained. That has to also be done with the National Security Advisor. And we have advised all VIPs to cooperate in this regard, that we will not tolerate this. Anybody who does that, we are going to make those cameras available to the CNC for him to see. And of course, they will be dealt with accordingly. Everybody who comes into the airport premises will know that they have to comply with the rules and regulations of that restricted environment called the airport, the airport environment, and they have to comply.
I want to get your thought on something just before we go into the recent policies of government and MoUs and the Cape Town Convention. It's something that was said by the director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, where she said only 3 out of the 22 airports under its management are profitable and contribute largely to the economy of the country. And it raises the concern, especially because she talked about passenger traffic at the other airports as well. It brings the concern of state governments trying to set up airports regardless of low passenger traffic, and then FAN has to still support these airports. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's not all airports by state government that FAN, take responsibility, in respect of to run and operate. We only take charge of our statutory responsibility, aviation security, traffic control, air traffic control, and on. But in terms of running the airport, when owned by state government, then they do so. They run it themselves. However, let's talk about the other airports that are owned by the federal government that are, located in different states that are not viable. What are we doing? We think, our administration thinks that we have not ramped up the non-aeronautical revenues as much as we can. These airports can be run profitably and they can be independent enough, right? Because people are only looking at passenger traffic as part of revenue. That is not correct. If you look at all the airports in the world, it's not only passenger traffic that provides the revenue. So when people look at, how many flights come here in a day, so we cannot run it profitably, that is not correct. Those are people with very myopic reasoning. Look at airports, you see vast areas of land in the airports, around the airports. Because normally before you build airports, you acquire a vast area of land. Yeah. And maybe you use only 10% of that land for the runway and the terminal building, 10% of it or 15% to build a runway, and then vast areas of bushes and all that around. What are you doing with all of that? Why can't you do 5-star hotels around there, 3-star hotels for people to come? Why can't you do event centers around those areas for people to come and hold events around there, raise revenue, and run the airports? Those are what they call the non-aeronautical revenues. The aeronautical revenues are the proper ones that you get through landing fees and and all that. Commercial people pay for parking the aprons, using the aprons, and all of that. Those are the aeronautical side. The non-aeronautical side, they have a lot of revenues to raise. We are looking at that. We are also going to concession those areas. Mm-hmm. And the moment we came in, because of the vision of President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, people are rushing to us for some of these small airports that were considered non-viable before. We are going to roll them out very soon. You're going to see our concession plans now. We are just about getting there where we're going to roll out, advertisement for these concessions. Airports that people thought were non-viable before, people have come to us to say, we can run it profitably, give it to us, and we're prepared to do so. And they have come with the numbers, they come with their business cases, we have seen their business cases. So, yes, for now, because of lazy approach to run the airport before, they were using revenues from just 3 airports to cover up the other airports, to pay for diesel, pay for lighting, pay for all of that. We can do that. And then secondly, why don't cut down costs on these other airports? For instance, we want to go full blast into off-grid power supply to these airports, because that is the major source of loss of revenue at this airport. You have to run diesel when there's no flight landing, when there's nobody there. You'll be running diesel for the whole day. Big generators, buying diesel and all of that, paying electricity bills. We need to look at going off-grid. And now we are fully ready for that, to go to, use solar to run these airports, so that we don't have to pay these high bills already. We are doing far more than 1 billion for Lagos, far more than 1 billion for Abuja. We run the generators, overnight when there's no flight.
1 billion a month?
More than this. I'm making it open to the Nigerian people.
We spend 1 billion a month
for power.
For power?
Yes, for power.
At the airport?
Yes.
Individually?
Yes. It's open secret. And I'm fighting it. Why were these things there before I came?
Is it justified, or is
we
it corruption?
we have done well. The point is that energy costs a lot, so there's no doubt about that. But whether it is fully accurate is what we are doing an energy audit now. I've inaugurated an energy audit. I won't allow some of these things happen under me without looking and taking a second look at them. So as I speak with you, an energy audit is going on now. Very powerful individuals called me. Powerful individuals who say, no, Festus, don't change you, this and that. I stood my ground. I said, go and report to Mr. President. It is not cheap to get source of power from here. I'm looking for cheaper source of power. Because we're eligible customers by going by the rules of DISCOs and GENCOs. We're eligible customers, consumers. So we are looking at all that. We are coming to that. We are doing an energy audit now. So, but the point I'm making is that we can source for cheaper source of power for our airports.
Beautiful. Since you mentioned audits, let's quickly just talk about the investigation ongoing around the Nigerian air. I know that there have been probes. I know the former minister has also been invited. Perhaps you have an update on that.
No, well, I won't touch what is going on with the courts and the EFCC. Please, just keep me out of that. I was also not the instigator of that. These things happened. This process started before I came to office, the process of investigation and all of that. I am not involved in that. I don't know what is going on, and the EFCC is doing their job. What I'm concerned about, and what the courts have confirmed, is that the courts have ruled. There is a court judgment now. It's not the fact that I suspended or the government suspended. The court has ruled that that process was not transparent, was illegal, and the court has cancelled it. But then even before the court cancelled it, the government took a decision based on complaints when we came in to suspend the project. And for us, for people to understand, I need to explain thoroughly to those who are still sitting on the fence, or those who think that our decision was not right. There are a few people, but of course, 90% of the industry was with us. I'm sure you saw the jubilation everywhere when we suspended that we took the right decision. But for those few doubting Thomases, let me explain thoroughly in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Ethiopian Air is owned by the Ethiopian government. Clear. That's the first thing. Let us put that in mind. It's owned by another sovereign government. Nigeria, under the guise of a Nigerian air, approached Ethiopian airline, which is Ethiopian government, whether we like it or not, to come and run our aviation ecosystem for us and take our prime heritage called national carrier. National carrier should be the pride of Nigeria, should be the heritage of Nigerians. So it's our common heritage, because that's our national carrier. So we invite Ethiopian Air to come and take this as the majority shareholder, 49%. Now, what that means, if you look at the agreement, is that we have considered all our BASA rights now. Because government, Nigerian government, we have BASA rights all over the world. We have BASA to fly to Germany, Johannesburg, Cape Town, everywhere in the world. We have Dubai, United States, London. We have, it's the government that owns this BASA right, not the individual airlines. I hope you know that. It is we that concede our routes to our local operators. Say, Epis, come and take London route. You come and take New, because we own it. Individuals don't own BASA rights. It's the government. So by conceding now a Nigerian air to Ethiopian air, what we are doing is that we are giving our entire BASA rights to another country to come and take our routes, because Ethiopian air was going to come in the guise of Nigerian air. And if you look at the agreement, they said they will not even register the aircraft as Nigerian aircrafts. They will still keep the registration as Ethiopian aircrafts. They will just paint it Nigerian air, but they will keep the registration as Ethiopian aircrafts. That is ACMI. That's what they call wet leases. Anyway, it's not dry lease. So we are not owning them. We are therefore giving our entire routes that should be of profit to our local operators. We are giving it to another country, dashing them. And then when they come, what will they do? I have seen the facilitator of that agreement, one American man. He has been hopping from one station to the other, hopping from one online media to the other, saying that Nigeria lost foreign direct investment, crying over. I was just looking at him, I'm laughing. He has been campaigning everywhere, one American man saying that Nigeria lost direct foreign investment. What is a direct foreign investment? All of this profit is going to Addis Ababa. It's not coming to Nigeria. All this profit we're talking about, of this running this airline, after taking all these BASA routes, the profit from those BASA routes are not coming to, they are going to Addis Ababa. We are paying them. And for those aircraft, they say their equity contribution was supposed that they are going to provide their SS fleets for as equity contribution to that Nigerian air. That is their contribution. However, it is not an investment. We are paying for them. We are going to pay about $112 million for a period of 3 years to Addis Ababa. What are they bringing to the table? We are paying them. So what is the investment here? Their staff, even their staff that were to go and that they were to second, they were going to second staff from Addis Ababa to Nigeria to run it. So the key managerial position, including the CEO, was going to be Ethiopian, not a Nigerian man. The key managerial position, I can show you clause 6 or so of the agreement, all reserved for Ethiopians. Of course, Nigerians will have one or two few, but the key ones, financial officer, chief operating officer, director of operations, CEO, all Ethiopians. And guess what? Terry, they will not pay tax to the Nigerian government for any money here. They gave for their salaries, so even their salaries they will earn is tax exemption, that they will not pay tax. That even if there's a change of law in any time in Nigeria regarding taxation, it will not affect the agreement of Nigerian Air. And they were now granted tax exemptions. Apart from granting them tax exemptions, they now said Nigeria will not be the guarantor. We indemnify Ethiopian Airline and Nigerian Air over losses, over everything. Despite the fact that we're not getting anything, Nigeria as a country will indemnify them for any loss. You know, allow me the modesty to say that, Terry, being here, it was like 3 for the price of 1. Because being a member of the inner bar, being a senior advocate, I didn't need to consult anybody. This is more than 3 decades of active legal practice. So unfortunately, maybe other people did not have the experience to say, okay, let me look at an agreement with a fine eye to know whether it benefits Nigeria. But here, I didn't need to consult. I didn't need to hire a senior advocate for the Nigeria to say, Aviation Ministry, come and look at it for us.
The arguments of the need for a national carrier has still been sustained. Despite this being suspended, what is the federal government's plan for a national carrier?
We are going to do a more holistic one. If Mr. President directs, and when he directs, for one that is beneficial to our country, beneficial to Nigerians, with Nigerian airline operators as stakeholders, Nigerians as stakeholders, major stakeholders, not just fringe stakeholders like they did other Nigerian. They said they gave them 10%, 20% here and there and all of that. Even that Nigerian Air, just to go back for 1 second, they said there was another 16% share that was held some in some kind of floating or limbo that is to be, it was held by MROS oil also, to be given out, to be given out to somebody unnamed later, that he must relinquish 16% to an unnamed person later. And your guess is as good as mine who the later person would be. You know, so it's there in the agreement. It's there. So how could I, with all my years of practice of law, come and see that type of thing and allow it to go through? But whilst we're even considering it, the courts came down hard. The court itself said, no, sorry, this is illegal.
Beautiful. When you say the federal government has plans for a national carrier, is it in the works?
We have proposals. We have proposals all over the world.
There are proposals, right?
As I speak with you. The Arabs are talking with us. The Chinese are talking with us. They are talking with us to see. We are looking at different models. We are looking at how, and then I think the best way out of it is what we're going to talk about later. Our own vision about it is to ensure that we have access and the capacity to acquire those aircraft that those people who are coming to us, that access they have, we should have that access too. And what is that access? Without you asking any question, let me use this to dovetail into the issue of dry leases and the Cape Town Convention and all of that, because this is the proper place to dovetail into it. It's the proper place. Now, why are our local operators, why are they handicapped? That's the question I ask myself. And this is a place, Terry, where Nigerians should see the clear policy shifts from what was existing before to what we have now. It's a clear policy shift. The old policy was that, oh, sorry, we cannot run it. We don't have the capacity. And so we give up and then invite a foreign airline, a foreign government to come and take complete possession of our aviation ecosystem and run it for us and give them our common heritage called Nigerian carrier. Because we have given up to the fact that we cannot compete with them. The policy shift, therefore, when we came in was that we looked at what is the root cause of our inability to assess the type of credits and aircrafts that those big airlines we are running to, that they are assessing. We talked to everybody in the world, leasers, the financiers, the manufacturers, and they all came down to one point. They said, we have always written to you. I'm sure you have seen my previous interviews when I came to office. People didn't know I was serious about that until we signed the practice direction. That's where I was going. They said, we don't have confidence in your system to give you aircrafts. Because all these big aircrafts you see around the world are not owned by Ethiopian Air. They are not owned by Emirates. They are not owned by Qatar Airlines. They are not owned by British Airways. They are not owned by, all these other airlines, the big airlines. 80% of the aircrafts flying all over the world are financed by leasers, by leasers across the world and financiers. So when you place an order for 10 aircraft, the leasers come in to help you to finance it, and then they give it to you and you begin to pay. That is what they do. There are people who take those business serious around the world. So I said, why are you not giving us? They said, we lost confidence in your system. Why have you lost confidence? They say we have read letters upon letters to previous governments to say you are departing from giving us comfort. The Cape Town Convention that regulates the acquisition of aircrafts around the world on dry lease. Dry lease means that they will give you. They will not control it. They will not put their pilots or anybody there. Control it. Okay? Run it in a profitable way, but pay us certain milestones regularly. Like we not used to have the hire purchase. People remember the Okada hire purchase and all that people used to do in those days. It's hire purchase by air. It's just air hire purchase. Nothing more. It's not complicated language. So we gave you people aircraft before, some of your operators. When they got to milestones of payment, they did not pay. Very simple. We complained, and when we were about to take our aircrafts, the aircrafts could not leave Nigeria. They rushed to courts and got court injunctions. Customs detained. NCA, that was supposed to deregister the aircrafts by their rules, did not have sufficient rules to deregister those aircrafts. And they showed me letters that people had ignored in the past, Terry. They showed me letters. I identified that immediately as the core of our problem. And I said, look, why not open up the market? The clear policy shift is that let us work aggressively at this so that we can be at par with the rest of the world in terms of comfort we can give to leasers, in terms of, making the environment conducive for creditors to bring in their aircrafts. So what did I do? I began to speak with all the stakeholders within the judicial sector. And it helped me because that is from my sector. And I want to give credit today to the immediate past Chief Justice of Nigeria, who was extremely helpful on this. He mandated one of the justices of the Supreme Court to work with us, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, the Attorney General of the Federation, who also mandated Justice Binta Nyako to head a committee of judges. She was marvelous in drafting this Cape Town Convention. The direct practice direction of Justice Binta Nyako headed a panel of 5 judges. The Attorney General of the Federation followed me to meetings and impressed upon them how much we needed this. The moment all of them saw the importance of this, they got down to work. And then once the draft was ready, we sent it all over the place. They all looked at it. We gave it back again to the Aviation Working Group in London and New York that are responsible for monitoring the compliance level of different countries in the world and then informing the leasers that this country is good enough for you to take your aircrafts to and all that. They are the ones who are responsible for implementation of the Cape Town Convention, the Aviation Working Group. So when that happened, they looked at it, they made their own inputs, and then they brought it back to us. And then the Vice President, as the head of the Presidential Enabling Business Council, the Ease of Doing Business Council, came in so powerfully. He was the real driver of this. And he was the one that drove this issue, supported us. Yeah. And at the end of the day, it was signed, I'm sure you saw, in his office. Okay. And that was where we got the breakthrough on this. And immediately after, from 49%, the next day, it wasn't up to 48 hours. The moment we signed, the Aviation Working Group informed the world that we have moved up from 49% to 70.5% in the compliance level across the world. And it's going up. Let me tell you why it's going up. Because there's one more aspect we're doing. They call it the IDERA. One more aspect. Those are the administrative rules of the NCA. When the court has given its own judgment, the NCA has to do its own rules for deregistration of the aircraft and allowing the person, the creditor, to take the aircraft away. That's the administrative part of it. Mm-hmm. We have to craft rules to ensure that this happens within 5 days. That is what the Cape Town Convention says, that you have to deregister within 5 days. And when I went to Seattle in Boeing, I told them, I will do it in 4 days for you. Don't wait for 5 days. I will do it. And they all clapped. And that is what we are waiting for. The IDERA, we have drafted the IDERA, the rules. It's going to come out anytime from now, and our rating, 70.5 is not even good for us as a government. We are aiming at 90-95%. Let us get to the at par with the world, Terry. That's how passionate I am with this. So that is the policy shift. The policy shift is empower our local operators. Don't go and give our heritage to another country. Empower them. Make it conducive and let them grow. Let them assess this. There's a gestation period for this. So Nigerians should not say, oh, tomorrow aircraft,
exactly.
FS will come down. The gestation period is that our local operators, we have to go out now. We have to assess credit. We have to Boeing, and we have to use, maybe you don't ask any question because this will dovetail into my visit to Boeing. It will dovetail into my visit to Boeing too.
The airfares, the aspect of the airfares was my major concern.
Yes, I'm going to come to that.
That's where I'm coming from. The CTC is supposed to reduce airfares, yes, but the question is over what period?
There's a gestation period. Once we begin to have these aircraft, that's the problem, the capacity we are seeing within the industry. There are flight cancellations. Yes.
You agree that this convention requires a huge investment in infrastructure?
Yes, but it is the capacity that leads to investment in infrastructure. It's going pari passu with the PPPs.
So are there legal complexities with regard to the extent of investment that Nigeria can make?
I'll come to that. But let's finish this. Let me tell the Nigerian people that it is when they have access to these aircrafts now around the world, that, for example, Lagos to Abuja, you are seeing now, maybe 4 flights a day and all that. There are no ticket now. So go and try and book from Lagos to Abuja till Wednesday, no flights, no seats. There are no aircraft, no capacity. But when you now have, when this thing is done, I'm sorry to tell John Momo, Terry may resign very soon to go and form an airline with his friends. I'm sorry. But then even you can collaborate with 4 or 5 people. You have access to credit, Terry. You can have access to credit now around the world because they now consider Nigeria safe. We have done it. We have reached there already. We have signed. What have we signed? We have signed and we have told the judges, don't grant injunctions. Don't detain any foreign aircraft here. If anybody rushes to court on an expert injunction to say there's an aircraft that wants to leave, a foreign aircraft, detain it, the judge will tell you no.
And the court of arbitration is in Abuja.
Yeah,
in Nigeria,
the Federal High Court, yes.
Federal High Court.
That has jurisdiction, which is the practice direction. Let me explain what the practice direction means to people. The judges are not going to give any debtor comfort again, like they were doing before. You rush to court, you give injunction, detain the aircraft here. The creditor is crying in New York. They will not do it again. The next day, your aircraft is gone if you don't pay. And I'm going to read the Riot Act. We are going to do a big ceremony recently, very soon, when we gazette it. We are going to call everybody together. And very soon, I'm going to invite you to. You are going to come to that ceremony in the next few weeks where we're going to unveil the gazette. I'll read the Riot Act to the airline operators. This is a new era. There's a new sheriff in town. We want to give the world comfort. Don't ever put us in trouble again. If you default, we deregister and we take you out, take the aircraft out, so that more people will bring aircrafts into this country. This is where we have landed at, Terry, and this is where we are going. So the gestation period is that once they begin to assess this credit now, we're looking at next 6 months, maybe a bit more, you see that we begin to force down the prices, we begin to service our routes, both domestically, regionally, and internationally, and we begin to force down prices and have access to more aircraft. There will be less delays, less cancellations.
So where does aviation fuel come in?
That's the cost of operation. Incidentally, it is also coinciding at a point when Dangote refinery is coming on board, and Jet A1 is to be produced. They are about to start producing Jet A1 for our local industry. Guess what? The airline operators of Nigeria recently, with my blessing, they just met. And let me give you this expo. I'm sure maybe they have not to reveal it to Nigerians. They have made a clear decision, all of them. They will no longer buy imported fuel. Yes. To also support the local industry, Dangote refinery. It's a decision by the airline operators of Nigeria, with my push and my blessing, that they should only buy from Dangote refinery, the Jet A1. And because it's going to be, you can see that yesterday it started the Naira for crude purchase is going to be bought in Naira, no dollar component. And so it will not be subjected again to the vagaries of the international market, the headwinds of oil prices in the international market. It will be by our local currency, our Naira, and so we can be clear as to the cost of it in Naira, and we'll buy in Naira, and I'm sure we're going to have access to cheaper Jet A1 fuel. All of this is just coming together under this government, and Nigerians, with a little patience, we are in for a good time in the aviation industry. We're in for a good time.
We're very hopeful. Let's talk about the Boeing agreement now. Of what benefit is it to Nigeria? And what exactly was the motive behind this agreement?
Well, I'm sure you looked at the terms of the MoU. And this was just coming just at the point we're about to sign the Cape Town Convention. I went to Airbus first in France a couple of months ago, and I went to Boeing. What did I go there to do? And I'm sure you saw how I took all the airline operators of Nigeria, all of them along with me. It is still a shift of policy. we were putting out our chest as government to say, look, we stand with them. We stand by their side, and we stand behind them too, to say, please allow them access to your network of leasers and creditors. So if you look at the Boeing agreement, they were very, very happy with us. When we told them the plans for our industry, we showed them our roadmap, and that was why they invited us, because they saw the new direction we were going. We went to Boeing not because we solicited for them, they invited us. I want to make that clear. Boeing invited us because they saw the direction this government is going, and they said, we are ready to work with you. They knew that we're just at the cusp of policy revolution. So Boeing said, look, there are 9 key points of that agreement. 9 key points. And the highlights, of course, would be that they want to leverage on their network of creditors and leasers across the world. It's the manufacturers that know them. Because they are the manufacturers, it's the creditors and leasers, they actually make deals with the manufacturers in order to finance the production of the aircraft for them to lease to people. So they have the network. And they told us in their agreement that they want to leverage on these leasers and financiers to help our local operators access dry leases, to access newer aircrafts around the world on good terms, not on wet leases, so that it's very cheap for them. They pay a small deposit, they get them, and they begin to run them. And because they said that our market is the biggest market in Africa, it accounts for 80% of domestic travels across Africa. That is huge. So Boeing was the one that did its own analysis of the Nigerian market. And they said the Lagos-Abuja route, for instance, is the highest domestic route in the entire African continent in terms of traffic in a whole year. I think it's also followed by somewhere in Johannesburg or Cape Town or so, another. But Lagos-Abuja is the highest. On and on. And we alone, Nigeria accounts for 80% of domestic travels. Not international, domestic, within the country of the entire African continent. They said that is huge. And they want to tap into that market. And so they said, we want to be part of your success story. We know you are just at the cusp of policy revolution. We see where you are going. We see your compliance with the Cape Town Convention. We know your scores are about to go up. We want to quickly be part of your partner, part of you. So we signed all of that. They want to provide technical support also. They want to provide access to their database to our local operators in order to also make sure that we have access to their maintenance culture and all of that. So it's a marvelous agreement we signed. And the local operators, that was where they made that statement. If you know that statement, the local operator said, Keyamo, you are going to be the father of modern aviation in Nigeria, the way you're going. But it was clear that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu gave us a clear mandate and we're following it to the hilt.
Are there any exit conditions or termination clauses in the agreement?
No, it just mandates both sides to be faithful to it, to assess the aircraft, because it's an MoU. So when the only thing that we're required to do is the Cape Town Convention. When they begin to allow us to assess this aircraft, we should pay for them. We should operate faithfully, and if we cannot pay for them, let the leasers have their aircraft back. That's simple. That's what we have to do. Because the ultimate aim is to assess the market, the international market that all these big airlines access to.
An hour goes by really fast. We're almost out of time. But there are some issues I want you to quickly address. The UAE-Nigeria relationship, where I should congratulate you.
Thank you.
You were part of the resumed flight on the 1st of October. So could you talk about that and perhaps address concerns with regard to the visa and stringent conditions based on multiple reports that we have, and also address issues of high cost of fares for Nigerian international travelers?
All right. So the UAE resumption of flights with UAE was a clear initiative by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. When he came to office, he felt the relationship that went downhill with the UAE was not to the benefit of Nigerians. It was not about fighting for himself, the president, or fighting for the elites. We recognize as a government that so many Nigerians had invested in the UAE. So many Nigerians saw the UAE as an alternative to going to Europe for business purpose, to going to China, all the way to China. Because the UAE market is like a stopgap for China. If you're going to China, there's nothing you see in China you don't see in Dubai. Most of the goods in China, they land in Dubai for you to trade. So for our traders, for our investors, for our businessmen, for even holiday makers, many people were also tired of going to the US and the Europe for holidays. They saw the UAE as a good alternative to go for holidays. So for business, for everything, for investment, it was a good destination to have as a viable alternative for Nigerians. Nigerians were hurt by the stoppage of the flights. Also, the UAE government, they were hurt. It was also hurt by that. It was a symbiotic relationship, not a parasitic one. Both sides benefited from it. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had the courage to approach his counterparts and then set the ball rolling for we, the lieutenants, to follow up. And then we started following up. In the last 1 year, it was back and forth. We had to sign a new BASA, renegotiate, conditions were given back and forth. We had to clear the backlog of trapped funds also. We had to set a new template for resumption and back and forth and all that. And at the end of the day, we broke the ice. I went there, concluded the arrangement and followed the flight down, with, the chief executives of Emirates Airlines and all that. And then, of course, it has given us, given Nigerian travelers a new alternative, routes. Dubai links almost the entire world. So if you want to go to anywhere in the world, you fly to Dubai first, just like Heathrow. You can get a connecting flight anywhere too. But our major concern was how to protect our local operators too in doing this, because at the end of the day, it's still a foreign airline, and we hope and we know that where we're going is that one day we are going to ramp up capacity of our local airlines to get to that level too, like what we are doing with the Cape Town Convention and the access to credit and leases and leases across the world. So at the end of the day, we secured for our local operators the right to code share with them and to give them the rights of first refusal in terms of code sharing. Code sharing would mean, for instance, that we won't allow them to hop within Nigeria, to say they come to Lagos, they fly into Abuja, pick other passengers, fly to Port Harcourt. We said, if you want to code share, in other words, if somebody wants to buy a ticket from Calabar to Dubai, the person can't buy that ticket from Calabar to Dubai. What will happen is that when you get to the airport, it is Ibom Air that will pick you from Calabar and take you to Lagos, and you connect and you enter Emirates and you're in Dubai. So that means Emirates is code sharing with Ibom Air. So it's going to enhance the capacities of our local airlines. In so doing, they will also ensure that those local airlines have access to credits, have access to lease, to good aircraft, because they know that they are the connecting partners they have in Africa. So you also want to make sure your connecting partner is also well equipped to service those your connecting routes too. And so you get into that kind of partnership with our local airlines. We are having an eye on that to see how the implementation will go in that respect, because our own ultimate aim is to ramp up the capacities of our local airlines.
Perhaps you could quickly address the issue of conflicting reports regarding the visa cost and the stringent measures attached
well,
to
that is strictly under foreign affairs. There's a small division of labor here. It's strictly under foreign affairs. It's just that I have an insight into the fact that the visas are available but on very stringent conditions. They are looking to relax it. It's just that they want to see how we on our part will be responsible enough in terms of Nigerians going to the UAE to actually debase us as a country. In every country you have the good, the bad, the ugly. And we think that it is not right. There were reports, I don't know whether it is true or false, and I regret to say this on camera, that one of the major armed robberies that took place, the bank robberies in here, was carried out by Nigerians. When it's a very peaceful country that with all kinds of stringent laws regarding their security, but Nigerians were involved in all kinds of cult activities in Sharjah and all that at the point, and it gave us a bloody nose. And we as a country should take responsibility too for filtering those who also go to foreign countries to represent us. And I think the National Security Advisor, the Foreign Affairs Minister are working very hard at that to ensure that we filter those who live here very well and they represent us well when they get there too.
I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck with the rest of your time in office.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's all on Political Paradigm today. If you'd like to catch this interview again, please go to YouTube or channelstv.com, search Political Paradigm. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.